Hello first from the web, my name is Scar. This is to date my hardest video to make. Talking about history is one thing, and tragic events in the fandom really hit home for me, but none as much as the untold story of Furry Amino. Today is going to be probably my most contentious video ever. I am going to be discussing what I have personally experienced and what has been told to me by others. I want people to keep in mind this video is not as researched in the traditional sense, as most of this info comes from personal testimonies, and the rest from my own experiences. This is the story of the rise and fall, or vice versa, of Furry Amino. Stay tuned. I joined the fandom in 2016. At the time, I had no idea where to start socially in the fandom, but I managed to luck out and find a group of 4 furs in my age range on the Fur Affinity forums. These people were Electrospectrified, Trinity, Nitrogen, and Kiara Everfrost. The former two have dropped off the face of the fandom, but the others I still talk to fairly regularly. Kiara now goes by her YouTube character Ignis, and upon their request, I will be referring to them as such for this and future videos. There were others in our little group chat, but it was mostly just us. And for a while we lived in our little golden age. At least for me it was. Eventually one of them brought up this upcoming social platform called Furry Amino and suggested we move to it as it'd be much more user-friendly than the forum thread. Furry Amino at this time was very young, just a few months old, and the community was in a much different state. It was a place to be social. Not a place you went for commissions, but to make friends. Everyone was friendly. Public chats were dominated by roleplays, and except for a few outliers, almost everyone was friendly at the very least. To me, it felt like a utopia. And for a while, it really was. Few trolls, and a real public social space online the likes of which the fandom had never seen in a long time. These days, a lot of furries are regulated to their specific groups. Congoers, Discord users, the Twitter scene, even Amino these days is very shut off from the rest of the fandom. There was a time when I would ask everyone to join because of how great the platform was. Even big YouTubers like Rainy Chaos were on the platform. Alas, digging beneath the surface, not all was as it seemed. I most actively used Furry Amino when I was under the age of 18, as did many of my friends. But there was an active older group on the app, and with it came a dark side. If you dug beneath the surface bits, there was a lot of not safe for work content on Furry Amino. It felt like back in the day, the staff wasn't as strict as they are now, and a lot of this crossed over into the younger audience. There was some really shady things that took place, a lot of which would not have been allowed. Most of this I only learned about way later, as unlike the bulk of people in the world I've never been as sexually driven, but some of my close friends were involved in this side occasionally. Others fell into this pit day one, and have drastically differing views than me on the app because of this. But what I can say is that the dark side is not representative of the entire platform, but the good side isn't either. Ignis, one of my many friends to abandon the platform, left a long post last June about all of this that even recently only really opened my eyes to just how widespread it was. Publicly, it really came ahead with the Fluffy controversies began. Fluffy was one of the leading staff of Furry Amino and was basically ejected from any position of power and had his reputation smeared because of controversy. Amino was changing, and my naive honeymoon period was over. I don't know if staff back in the day just weren't as competent as they are now, but a lot of shady stuff was happening. One of my good friends, Luna Sky, often found her way into these private groups and has personally discussed some of the horrible stuff she has seen. I don't want to go into detail for the privacy of those involved, but there was anything from underage erotic roleplay to legitimate porn chats. The very PG nature of the app makes it a haven for young furs, but also presents a danger, with predatory adults being attracted as well. There was even a problem with porn link bots going around. Most of these problems are taken care of today, but there are still people who will randomly private message asking for ERP. A couple of my friends fall victim to this all the time. Again, I have basically no first-hand experience with most of this, but many people I trust deeply have come forward with many of these stories and screenshots. This app was probably growing too fast for its own good, and attracted an undesired audience as part of it. This is a big reason many turned away from the platform, and still refuse to use it to this day. This is something that has ruined lives, some close to me, and must not be ignored. Thankfully, this is mostly non-existent these days. There were plenty of examples of more community problems, though. There is a big event that took place on the app in 2017. There was a figurehead named Fluffy, who was a curator promoted all the way back on September 5th, 2016. In early 2017, he was promoted alongside another one named Sleep Kitty to leader, following the resignation of Luna Crescens. The celebration was not long-lasting, as abruptly Fluffy was banned by Team Amino, and the furry community Amino was put on probation. He was banned for having favorited a piece of artwork of his character in a maw shot. Now, there was this image of the maw shot, but it was briefly replaced by this one. Rumor is that a user reported it to Team Amino, claiming it as vor material. Whatever the case, the beloved staff member Fluffy was promptly banned, even after quickly changing the art piece back. A lot of the community did not take kindly to this, as many were asking for his unban. And in a personal sense, I do think this level of punishment was unwarranted, as the art was far from explicit, all very tame, all things considered. Eventually he got unbanned, but he was barred from ever returning to his staff position. He has tried to reapply a few times, but has not been reinstated. The sad thing is Fluffy was a great staff member, and his loss was definitely felt on some of us. Originally I was going to omit the short story section, and probably make a short follow-up in the future, but I feel it was relevant enough to add in. Moving on though. The few years before we turned 18 was ripe for a lot of drama in our lives. Me and many of my friends, and I mean many of them, often went through these teenage drama phases with people on the app. Relationships came and went, scandals were all over the place, a few monsters reared their ugly head, and very often there were people collapsing under their own anxiety and depression. This was very prominent in our little corner of the app, but it wasn't exclusive to us. There was a time when it wasn't rare for chats to be about suicidal furs or just really depressed ones to be created. These people were usually looking for support, for emotional help. A weird thing that I struggle with is this sense of uncontrollable empathy, and after having gone through a few life-changing journeys of my own, I was high on the idea of helping others experience the same sort of thing I did. Of course, I never fully succeeded in this kind of thing, and I was very naive to think I could be a miracle worker, but I did help many people on the way, and did a lot of maturing about who I am and how I can help other people. I earned a reputation among my peers of being that person to call when someone was talking about suicide or needed cheering up. It took me a while to really get a grasp on how to help people effectively, but I have since learned to know how to draw many important lines. When to focus on myself so I'm not overwhelmed, and when to know it's above my pay grade. Ever since the fandom changed my life, I've wanted to help change the lives of others in it. It's become an integral part of who I am. These videos are an example of that. To close a long tangent, a lot of shit happened to me and many other people. I managed to pick myself up, but those around me did not always. Some of these people straight up left the app, never to return, and even one person now demonizes me. I guess I am one of the few people in the world that likes sifting through the past and learning from it, as I never bury most things. Part of this is why I feel comfortable making videos like this and others such as MFF 2014. Once all the smoke and dust cleared though, I lost many of my friends. Some were permanently changed, severing all ties to their former selves, and almost all have left the app because of some personal drama or because of the next big change the app went through. Furry Amino slowly lost its old user base, and a new influx of people arrived. The landscape of Amino changed drastically, going from a social platform to one dominated by people looking for commissions and artwork. In a sense, the app is actually better than it's ever been, but it's more of a place to meet some random furs and not exactly the place you built long-lasting friendships like it used to be. The dark sides have mostly been ironed out, but I know nothing can repair those memories from those who suffered during those days. A good time for me, I suppose, but a bad time for many others. It is very likely the current user base is highly unaware of the olden days and how much different the app used to be, for better or for worse. The app is now a very cheap commission store rather than a place to roleplay your heart out. Very few of my friends still use the app, by which I literally mean like 2 or 3, and even I don't log on as much as I used to. The sad thing is, there doesn't seem to really be any alternative in the online space that can replace what Amino had. Just about anyone could be a lifelong friend, and I just don't know if that magic can ever be felt again. Furry Amino is not a bad place. As it stands, it's a very good place for young furs to hang out, as long as they are aware of the risks. Thankfully, it has been improved from its troubled beginnings, and I don't know if its reputation among its veteran users can be redeemed after what went on during its first few years, but at the very least, it's a steady niche bit of the fandom now. I hope you all took away something after this long, mature breakdown of some of Amino's troubled history and learned something new. Until next time when I discuss the growing pains of the furry fandom, take care.